Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Membership Voice. I'm Kero O'Shea, the coordinator of the Voice and host for this evening's webinar. A very special welcome to tonight's presenter, Past District Governor Tom Gump. It's 4 a.m. in Tom's time zone, and we very much appreciate Tom making time at this hour to join our webinar. Hi, Tom. How are you?
I am doing just fine, and it's so great to be here with you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Been looking forward to this one, Tom. But at this stage, I'd like to acknowledge the Wadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm hosting tonight's webinar. I acknowledge the strength of their continuing culture and offer my respects to elders past, present and emerging. But now I am delighted to introduce tonight's special presenter, Past District Governor Tom Gump, all the way from America with membership inspiration. Over to you, Tom.
Well, thank you very much. And I truly hope that all of you are inspired today, because when it's all said and done, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to receive this information. We're trying to hold this information, and then we're trying to go back to our clubs and districts and spread it. Because if we don't, then there's no value to you being here today. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I couldn't be more excited. I was telling Carol before we got on that I'm wearing my official Ian Risley tie that came from the grand year of 2017 and 18 when Ian was president, in honor of being with all of you today. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about, people ask me to talk about different things, whether it be the four-way test or the strategic plan or the action steps, but we get to talk about my favorite subject today, which is growing membership. And we're going to talk about the newest strategies when it comes to attraction, engagement, which we used to call retention, and club formation strategies. So to begin, let's talk about what you have to do to grow Rotary. Different people have different theories about this, but it's really, when it's all said and done, there's only three things we need to do to grow Rotary. We attract new members, we engage them, and that's the word that RI wants us to use now, is engagement. We used to use retention, and retention's part of it, but really engagement is what we're really looking for. And the third way, and this happens to be my favorite, is forming new clubs. And I'll tell you why in just a little bit. So we're going to talk about the newest attraction strategies, the very newest engagement strategies, and the newest club formation strategies. And what a great time to be in Rotary, especially with our new president coming with new attraction and engagement strategies. So let's talk about them. Before we start talking about exactly what we need to attract, let's talk about the most recent survey and why people tell us they join Rotary. Because if people join for a certain reason and we can repeat it, then they'll keep on joining. Now, when it comes to Rotary or it comes to Rotaract, the main reason people join is friendship, camaraderie, and community service. They want to be a part of a group and they want to serve together. They're also looking for professional connections and networking. And when it comes to Rotaractors, they're looking for personal growth and development. They basically want to rub shoulders with people of significance in their industry so they can advance in their careers. Now, this is important. 85% of Rotarians join because they have a personal ask. So we have to ask them. They can't join unless we ask them. Yes, we have membership leads that come through the computer. People type in Rotary and they want to join, but really 85% join because you ask them. And it makes sense. If you reach out and extend an offer, that gift of Rotary to someone, then they're going to respond because they want to be part of your club. They want to be part of that group. And also, and Bain, a global consulting firm, came up with a study during COVID, and they said that people want to join groups that make them feel welcome. So luckily for us, 82% of our Rotarians feel welcomed, and 77% of our Rotaractors feel very welcomed. So when it comes down to it, to attract members, we have to deliver value. We have to give potential members professional help with their careers or with personal development. So these are the things we need to consider when they're delivering that value. And we can't just promise that value. We actually have to deliver it or they'll leave. So we need to have a variety of service projects, local projects, international projects. We need to have fun, engaging social events. We need to offer professional development, and this is especially true with our younger members of our new clubs or our Rotaractors. Leadership development is especially important to our Rotaractors. I love the pinball of the people coming in. I know that this evening people are busy with different things, and thank you for coming in and taking your time to be with us to learn about this, because this is very important. I mean, membership is what makes Rotary. Membership is the number one internal priority of Rotary. Our number one external priority is polio eradication, of course. Mentoring, and mentoring goes two ways. We can provide mentoring for our younger people coming in from seasoned professionals, but also our career Rotarians can learn from newer members, like computer skills and what's going on in social media and things like that. Networking opportunities are very important. People join Rotary because they want to make sure that they know the people in their town and they're able to network with them, from everything from politicians to scientists to librarians and authors. You know, we need those networking opportunities. And we need to make our clubs family friendly. And that's not just saying we're family friendly. We need to have events like picnics, and we need to involve our children and let people know that they are welcome there. So, attraction innovations. It's a great time to be in Rotary because we have our Rotary International President, Shakar Mehta, and he was just brilliant with his strategies. And I'll tell you why. He not only gave us the motivation, he gave us a direction. The direction is each one bring one. And when I bring this up, sometimes when I speak around the world, people ask me, well, Tom, aren't we just focusing on quantity and not quality? And that's not true. What happened is Shaker Mehta took the idea of a membership committee and totally turned it on its head. We used to think of a membership committee as 1 to 3 or 4 people in a club, and it was their job to find the new members. The rest of us just come, eat lunch, eat breakfast, and not do it. But what he has done is he made each and every one of us a part of the membership committee. So Carol Lawton has to bring in a member. Kay Phillips should bring in a member. Derek King should bring in a member. I should bring in a member. Carol should bring in a member. And so when we do that, we're not focusing on quantity, we're focusing on quality. Because I, Tom Gump, could go out and find the best person that's the best fit for the culture of my club and bring them into my club. So that is the direction. It's attraction and bringing them in. That's what we're focusing on this year. The motivation is the membership society, which we'll talk about that. That's a reward for bringing in members into your club. Now, the other objection I get sometimes is, Tom, that's hard. Everyone bring it in, that's hard. And it's doable. It really is doable. I put this up as a post I saw on Facebook that showed at a club in June, on June 30th of 2021, this year, they had 43 members. By July, they had 86 members. So they did it. And you can do it too in your clubs. The membership society. This is a great new device that Shaker Mehta came up with. You know, when you go to Evanston, our corporate headquarters, and go to the 18th floor, there's a glass wall of people's names who have given $250,000 in contributions to the Rotary Foundation. Well, finally, they have a membership equivalent. In the membership society, if you find 25 members and you recruit them into your club and they're joining, they're active, you get to be in the membership society. I was honored when I received an email from Rotary International asking me to be a gold member because I brought in over 50 members into my club. This doesn't count members that you refer to other clubs or when you start other clubs, it just counts to your club. So we have the direction of attraction, bringing them in, and then we have the motivation to get through the membership society. The other thing that I think is pretty cool nowadays is when you get a new member to come to your club and they join, RI sends you a letter through the award center recognizing your contribution. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we attract our members. The next thing we need to do is engage our members. You know, Rotary, we bring in a lot of people each year. We brought in over 155,000 people last year. We broke a record for bringing in more people than we ever had before during a worldwide pandemic. But we broke another record, which isn't so good. We lost more members than we ever have. We lost over 155,000, actually ended up being 12,000 members down. Now we could pat ourselves in the back and say, hey, that's not bad for a worldwide pandemic, only being 12,000 members down. But we've been at 1.2 members, according to John Hugo, our head of the Secretariat, our CEO. We actually have 1.2 million members. We've been there for about 25 years. If you count our Rotaractors, we have 1.4 million. But it's time to bring in more and to grow. So when we talk about engagement and trying to retain our members, we have to ask ourselves, why do members leave? So the most recent study, and RI now has a statistician, and it's great that they study all these things, but the newest survey shows that members leave because it takes too much time, they say, or it costs too much, or their expectations aren't met. Same is true for Rotaractors, except they have age, because sometimes they age out and join. So why do people leave? We have been very good at having these virtual meetings like we're having today. It's a great way to engage people. But what we're finding out through our surveys is it's not the only way. And we don't want to go unless you're an e-club, and that's a different situation where they actually have local projects around that are engaging people. We don't want to have all virtual meetings in our traditional clubs. We want to have our traditional clubs, but we want to have the option of virtual. And sometimes I was talking to the director from my zone last night, and she was saying in her club, they've gotten down to only 8 members that are virtual. And some people say, oh, we don't have to do that anymore. No, we don't need to go backwards. We need to keep our hybrid meetings and keep people engaged, because that flexibility allows some people to join who otherwise wouldn't, and allows some people to stay who would otherwise have to leave. So the pandemic is something that 9% of our Rotarians say they may leave because of it, and 11% of our Rotaractors. It's just something to be conscious of. Let's just deliver that value that we talked about and that we promised, and we should be okay. Now, it's hard to change a club, right? Some of our clubs have been around for over 100 years, because to change a club, you have to change a culture. And to change a culture, you have to change people. And we all know how difficult that is to do. But what we can do is we can tweak our clubs a little bit to make them more accessible and make them more enjoyable for some of our members. And that way we'll keep them and probably also bring in others. So what do we need to do? We need to conduct a survey. Surveys aren't difficult. You can Google up health check on my Rotary, and you can get a sample survey. What we did in our district is we took the survey, we put it on SurveyMonkey, and we sent it out to the district, and we've got responses. So then you know things like most people like to correspond via email as opposed to WhatsApp or something like that. But you don't have to get that fancy. You can just ask 5 simple questions. You can ask, do you like where we meet? Do you like when we meet? Do you like our service projects? Do you like our socials? Just ask those 4 or 5 things, and you'll find out what people like. Now, when we do this interactively, let's say I go to the Philippines and I have a few hours, as opposed to a presentation, we work through these things. And if I would do a survey right now, there's usually about 5%, and it doesn't matter if you're in Asia or you're in the GB&I, Great Britain and Ireland and Rotary. If we're in Australia, there's always about 5% of people who aren't happy. So we ask them, are you satisfied, somewhat dissatisfied, neither satisfied or dissatisfied, somewhat dissatisfied or dissatisfied? Those last 2 categories of somewhat dissatisfied, those 5%, if you dig down and you ask them what they don't like, it's usually really simple things like, I'm not a morning person. I don't like to get up at 7:30 and go to a country club. I'd rather go to a hotel at lunch, or rather meet at a coffee shop on a weekend. So when you find out those things, you can do some flexibility. So let's talk about a little bit about engaging members because of the time and place. And let's talk about what traditional clubs are doing and what our new clubs are doing, because it turns out that the new clubs they're forming are doing things a little bit differently. And I'm not saying that you need to go out and start a new club. I'm saying what you should do is you can think about ways you possibly, after you conduct a survey, think about reimagining your club. Think about trying to tweak it a little bit, change it a little bit to make it more appealing to more people. Or start a satellite club. It only takes 8 people, and that's still part of your club. They just meet at a different time and location. So traditional clubs meet either morning or lunch, Monday through Thursday, mostly. The new clubs, what are they doing? They're meeting at night. Most clubs that are new, formed in the last 5 years, meet either Tuesday, Wednesday night, or Saturday morning. The places are different. Our traditional clubs, what we do is we usually meet at a hotel or we meet at a country club. And usually people meet within, 20-minute radius of their house or where they work. The new clubs are different, especially the cause-based clubs. They meet at free locations that don't have a fixed cost meal. Maybe the basement of a place of worship, maybe a park. There is in England, Maidenham Bridge is a club that meets the first and third Sunday at a coffee shop, and they bring their partners or spouses and their children. The adults play bridge and the kids play together. That's the different things you can think of, either satellite club or tweaking your current club. The format of the meeting, Rotary doesn't say you have to have 4 business meetings. It just says you have to have 2 meetings of some sort. So if you want to keep your 4 meetings, you could have 2 business meetings and you could do something different. In my club, we have Rotary in the workplace, where we actually go to a Rotarian's place of business and we see what she or he does at his business. A few months ago, we went to a woman club member in our club. She owns an airport. We went there. We flew people around our twin cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. That's middle northern part, almost to Canada, the United States. And make sure if it's a breakfast or lunch meeting, bring some food and coffee. That helps a lot too. You could also go to one of the organizations that you support. If you support a food bank, you can go there and unload boxes, load shelves. You don't always have to have business meetings. So the other thing is the delivery, and you're a perfect example of this. You're delivering this meeting electronically. So I'm able to join you at 4:00 in the morning in the US, and I'm very excited to be here with you. So we had, when the pandemic started, we had a joint meeting of my club and another club in another neighboring town. And we actually had a singer and entertainer from Australia. So of course it was nighttime there. It was 7:30 a.m. in the morning here, but she was the voice of Siri, on the Apple phones. So she sang for us and we talked about her being the voice of Siri. So it was actually a pretty fun meeting. You can do that with this new technology, and we probably should do it with this new technology. So we want to talk a little bit about different club models and different club types, just so you know what your options are. And we're not going to go into a lot of details, just to give you some ideas. The traditional clubs we talked about, the corporate clubs focus around a corporation. Different people from different areas, HR, legal, can all get together. And then when you have service projects, you can actually have the whole company come out and join you. So it's a good way to get members. Cause-based clubs, that's where someone with a passion or a cause, you have all your meetings and service projects around that cause. Let's say autism or something like that. Interest-based clubs, there's one in Australia for koala. So it's you could have one around cooking shows or exercise, or you could do all kinds of interests. You could have a happy hour club that meets. You could call it the 501 club, and they can meet after work and everyone get together and just enjoy social. International clubs are good. In Chicago, we have a couple of Spanish-speaking clubs. Alumni clubs are great because you can bring in members, because that's a hard part of any club, is bringing in those new members. And if you start a new club, same thing, but you can use alumni to get there. Rotaract Satellite Passport. So one thing you won't see on there is the E-Club. Rotary doesn't recognize E-Club as a club type. Of course, you can have an E-Club, and you can even put E-Club in the name, which we've seen a lot during the pandemic. But Rotary International considers that a delivery system as opposed to a club model. So membership types. This is when your club offers discounts for individuals to get them to join. So if you have a second family member that is joining, you could give them a discount. Now, when you pay dues to your club, part of that goes to Rotary International, part goes to the district, and part goes to the club. You can't change the district unless you're district governor and the district governor line, or your board of directors, depending on what kind of entity you have. But you can change the club types. So if you have a corporate membership and you have 3 or 4 people from a corporation that want to join, and you want to give them discounts where you only charge them the meals for the people who actually come, you can do that. Associate memberships are for individuals who want to join your club, but they're not sure they are the right fit. So they want to have some time, maybe a quarter or two, to actually see if they fit. So you can give them discounted fees when they start off. Young professionals, you can give them a discount as well. But remember, RI district only recognizes active members and inactive members, and also honorary members. So now comes the new club formation strategies. And this is something that Kiro's been interested in, and I can see why, because it grows Rotary quickly. You know, if you think about it, when you bring in an individual member, it takes a while. You know, you have to meet with them, you have to tell them the value that they're going to receive. It could take a club, they come in chunks of 20, 30, 40, 50. Our newest club that we started here, the Rotary Club of Network for Empowering Women, started with 55 members. It would take me a long time to bring in 55 members in my club one at a time. It also retains members longer. Most Rotarians, when they leave Rotary, they leave between the second and third year because they start to realize they haven't received the value that was promised, or they haven't yet formed those lifelong friendships that all of us have with the members of our club. But the new clubs, especially the cause-based clubs, they have that magnet that brings them together for that cause that they're working on. So they end up being more passionate and they stay around longer. Now, the new clubs also attract younger and more diverse members. We're going to talk about diversity in a little bit. But, you know, in our club, we do things such as picking up trash along the highway. We make sandwiches for the hungry. We rake people's leaves. Now, if I went to a millennial and say, join my club, we can pick up trash, it doesn't really sell the same way it did for our generation, because we were told we need to come in and we need to do service, and we love doing it with our friends. But if you tell someone who's a millennial, you can focus on your passion, you can focus on your cause, and you can have great impact, because we have Rotary with 116 going on 117-year great reputation. We have the Rotary Foundation. We have 1.4 million Rotaractors and Rotarians around the world. That attracts them because they can focus on what they want to focus on. Also, these new clubs, they reach out into the community and they bring people in. You know, our Veterans Club that we started last year, and now there's more than a dozen of them around the world. People come, and they don't come because they're 20 minutes away like they do in traditional clubs. They actually come an hour and a half, 2 hours to go to that blood drive or that clothing drive or whatever service project they're working on. And also the new clubs provide great opportunities to partner up with other organizations that have the same cause that you're working on in your club. So we have been trying to add gender parity to our clubs, and we have been trying to add diversity for years at Rotary. And it's really hard to do. But what we found out in our district is we increased the percentage of female membership by more than 2%, 2.25% this year. We added 80 females. And the way we did it was just 3 different clubs. Our Twin Cities Eco Club, 52% female. Our Rotary Club to End Human Trafficking, 61% female. And the Network for Empowering Women, 69% female. So these new clubs can actually add diversity and gender parity when we couldn't do it before. So different club types. You can either have a Rotary Club, a Rotaract Club, or a satellite club. It takes 20 members to start a Rotary Club. It takes a recommended 12 for a Rotaract Club, and a satellite club, which is really part of your existing club, only takes 8 members. And again, the reason we do that is to add flexibility so we don't lose people. And the club models, traditional, passport, corporate, cause-based, alumni-based, interest-based, international, just be thinking of these things. So when you recreate your club or you tweak changes, you could add certain aspects of this. You could take a club, we did this in Houston last year, where we had a Toastmasters club that was not doing too well. It was about to give up its charter. It turned to a veterans club. It just added that cause. And remember, it's not about being a veteran, it's about serving veterans. Because in Rotary, we're very inclusive when it comes to membership. Sometimes we're just exclusive when it comes to service. So we added that cause, and that club is doing great. And they actually have an Interact club too now. So we're doing something today that we usually don't do in my presentation, and that is learning from mistakes that I've made and my district has made in forming clubs. Carol was very keen on doing this. So we're just going to take a minute apiece for the last 7 clubs we start, just to let you know in the last couple of years what we learned from starting new clubs. So I think this is going to be fun. So you don't want to take too long when you're starting a club. We learned this in the Twin Cities Rotary Eco Club when we started it. You know, if you get a couple members and they're excited, but then you wait a few months before you bring in that third member, you know, usually you've lost the first or second member by the time you bring in that new member. So just commit to it, jump right in, ask your friends, family, neighbor, people you worship with, people you work with, people you work out with, ask them to join and get it done and get it started so you have that energy, the wind behind your sail that takes you through. Don't take too long. So the most important thing, if you can only take away one thing from my presentation today, know that you can start a club. You know, I started the first ever Rotary Club in the world for veterans, and I'm not a veteran. And you know what? I don't have an active military base or a defunct military base anywhere in the state that I live in. So just remember, if Gump can do it, you can too. And whatever your passion is, you can start that club. And there's a lot of people there to help you. There's Rotary coordinators, assistant Rotary coordinators, independent club advocates, regional membership officers, RI staff, learning center. You know, you could reach out to me anytime. Carol's got my contact information. What we learned from starting the first ever club to end human trafficking is you have to reach out into the community and you have to bring these people in. You know, how did this club start? They came to Lloyd and I. Lloyd is on the phone tonight. He was a district membership chair last year. They came to us and said, Tom, we're going to quit Rotary. And I said, why would you quit Rotary? These are the people who are ahead of our End Human Trafficking initiative. We had our district, the district to the east of us, and the district to the north of us. Each club had a club champion. And they said, Tom, you don't understand. We might get one district grant every other year. We might get one speaker a year. We want to focus on this issue all the time. I said, great, let's start a club. And they said, Kiro, what do you think they said when I said, let's start a club?
Why wouldn't they say yes?
They would if they talked to me first, but they said, no, it's too hard. And I said, it's not too hard. They said, can you help? I said, yes, we'll help. And you know what? We did. And it wasn't hard. But that's an example of they were going to quit Rotary and we brought them in. Now, 2 weeks after this club formed, I'm on and they're inducting a new member from Turkey. And I said, this is great. We didn't have someone from the country of Turkey. It's a new country for this club. Well, 20 minutes after that call, I get an email from then President Mark Junior Maloney, international president, said, Tom, that was my sister you just inducted into that club. I've been trying to get her to join Rotary for 40 years, 40, but we just didn't have a club to fit. So we can start a new club and bring in new people. Let's face it, if we had a club for everyone in the world, we wouldn't be stuck at 1.2 million, Rotary Actors 1.4. We would have tens of millions of people. And we can do that by doing this. So I get a little bit passionate about Rotary when it comes to membership. But it's going to take some passion. It's going to take a little bit of energy. So I guess I shouldn't apologize for that. The Rotary Club of Network for Empowering Women. What I learned about this, as we talked about before, we add diversity, we add gender parity when we do this. But this club also taught me we need to, when we're starting a club, not make it like the club that we have. We let the people decide what they want. Now, that's a long title, right? A long club name, the Rotary Club of Network for Empowering Women. That might have been a little bit longer than I would call my name, but you know what? I have my club and it works for me, my traditional club. You need to, when you start a club, you need to let them decide what they want to do. They wanted to have their chartering event on a Sunday. I was like, oh no, I'm going to get in trouble. That's a day of worship. But you know what? I let them do it. And they wanted to do it because a lot of them worked and they had children responsibilities on Saturday. So Sunday was a good day for them. So we talked about adding the diversity. That's important. That's what these new clubs do. Now, the Rotary E-Club of Global Travelers, this formed on April 23rd of last year. A friend of mine from Minnesota, again, that's for those that have joined since the beginning, that's middle US, near the northern border of Canada. My friend Paula, who was chair of our International Service Committee in my club, she moved down to Florida, which is the way south. You probably know Florida more than you know Minnesota. She joined her Rotary Club in Florida, and she didn't like it so much because they didn't do international service. They only did local service. So I said, Paula, you need to form a club. And Kira, what did Paula say?
I hope she said yes.
Eventually, but first she said, no, it's hard. And I said, no. See, she hasn't been to my seminar. She'd know if Gump could do it, you could do it too. So I said, Paula, do you have any friends? Now I knew Paula had tons of friends. And she said, yes. So she started contacting her friends. And who were her friends? People that she traveled around the world with in global study exchanges, in friendship exchanges. I contacted my friend. My family's into hosting youth exchange students. And we've hosted 6 of those. So I started calling parents who were host parents, and now their kids went off to university, and as we call it, college here in the US, but they were interested in joining this club. So we started this club. We had 24 members. And the cool thing about the new clubs is they also have these associate members or friends of the club. And what they are usually spouses or partners or people who want to be involved, but they're already in a club. And Rotary International only allows you to be one member. Remember, active, inactive. Honorary is a little bit different. So we have a peace fellow in here. We do all kinds of fun things. In this club, they do one service project that's international and one service project that is local. And then we do one fun thing. This year, we're going to go to Sacramento, California, and help build the Rose Bowl parade float. But these new clubs can be fun. Now, Rotaract E-Club for the Environment. This is a club that John Hugo mentioned in his closing remarks at the last international convention. What we did, we started this club, and it's got 30 members now, approximately, in 20 different countries, all young people. And they meet virtually. Their main form of communication is WhatsApp, which is different than our traditional clubs, which usually use email to communicate. Now, how were we able to do this? How can we start this club in just a few months? Well, the reason we were able to do that is because we partnered up with an organization. That's what I learned here. We went to SRAG, which is Rotary Action Group for Sustainability. And we said, do you have any young members? You know, Rotary Action Groups, they advise on how to do projects, how to fundraise. Do you have any young members who want to get their hands dirty, like this man here planting? And they did. And they gave us a list of 120 people. We started calling them, hey, do you want to be part of a club? And now these clubs are just vibrant. It's doing well, fun to go to. We also learned through the Kaleidoscope Club, and this is a club that Lloyd in my district, who's on the phone today, on the Zoom call today, we partnered with an organization that helps developmentally handicapped people and people with autism, and they serve those individuals and their families. And you know, you learn so much by being part of these new clubs. I never thought a person with autism would want to be the president of the club, and would want those responsibilities. But our president is on the scale. He's a 60-year-old man. You know, we had our Zone Institute last week in Houston. He flew down there at the costume party. It was a space theme because it was in Houston. He won the costume contest, and he couldn't have had a better time at that institute. So really quickly, we'll wrap up, because what I want to get to is the questions, because that's the best part, because I want to answer the questions you have and give you the knowledge that you're seeking, because I want you to get a reward from coming here. So all of these had something in common. They had a passionate champion. You need someone who's going to be that spark plug, who's going to bring people in and be excited about it. All of them, from the Veterans Club to the End Human Trafficking to every example we use, they all evolve around friendship and camaraderie. And why did they come together? Because they wanted to serve. Again, you don't bring a bunch of teachers together and call it a club. You bring in people who want to serve those who want to end illiteracy. Like the Veterans Club, it's not about being a vet, it's about serving other vets, whether it be writing active cards for the military, building homes for the homeless veterans. They all started with friends. Sometimes when we have interactive sessions and we design a club together, I ask them, where are you going to get your members? And I remember a young lady saying, well, I just moved to town. I don't have any friends, but I'm going to ask my mom. I said, that's great. That's a great place to start. You start with the people you know, because you have credibility with them and they know you as a Rotarian. And what we learned from the Learning Center and the studies that have been done by Rotary International is, if a club is supported and nurtured by an existing club or a district, and normally you don't think of a district because you fill out the paperwork, you list a club, but districts can support. We have a pro-growth policy in our district. that I started when I was governor that says that we won't charge any district dues for the first year for the new club, so they can use those extra funds to work on their club and get established. So people always ask, they say, Tom, what are the easiest clubs to start? Well, what we're seeing around the world is veterans clubs and human trafficking clubs. And why are we seeing these? It's because we've proven that they work. So remember, if Gump could do it, you can too. It's not hard. There's other clubs, environmental clubs. There's 13 of those around the world, literacy clubs, autism clubs, hand wash projects, water, sanitation, hygiene projects. Ending human homelessness, there's 2 clubs in Australia that are working on homelessness clubs, and really anywhere that people can serve. So my favorite part is to talk to you and answer your questions. So let's get started with that, and I will stop sharing so I can see all your faces.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tom. First, I owe about half our audience a profound apology, because when I was setting the events up on Facebook and Zoom, it was shown half an hour late on Zoom. So I do apologise for that. That you've missed a big chunk of this wonderful presentation that Tom has given tonight. But that being said, I do offer that apology. But we have had some questions come up, and if you do have any questions, please just put something in the chat saying what the question might be about. It doesn't have to be the whole question. But for the moment, Derek King, one of our regulars from the South Island of New Zealand, you had a question about e-clubs and passport clubs.
Yeah, I was just wondering where the e-club went, and then obviously its method of delivery, and then halfway through the presentation, up comes an e-club of global travellers and an e-club for the environment. So obviously it's kind of gone, but no one's noticed yet. E-clubs have been around for it. So what is an e-club now? Because I'm looking at setting one up for our district, which is basically half the South Island, where people can't meet. So what are we if we're not a passport club or an e-club?
Thank you, Derek, for that question. It's a very wonderful question. I really appreciate you doing that. And I'm glad I have a chance to clarify that. So, no matter what Rotary calls it, what I call it, if it's successful, it works. And we do use, I was just getting you used to the nomenclature, but yes, of course, we still have e-clubs. And of course, we formed 2 in our district during the pandemic. So I love passport clubs, and I'll tell you why, Derek, because you can mine your database of people who left Rotary. Because again, they may have left because they can't meet. I'm in a traditional club, 7:30 a.m., which is 3 hours from now. I will be at our country club with people who I love, who are my friends. But I have other friends who I've invited to my club, Derek, and I've said, hey, come join our Rotary Club. They say, Tom, I can't. Because in the U.S., we take our children to the bus stop to go to school in the morning. And so do you do that too in Australia? Yeah. Yep. Yes. Okay. So they need to do that, and that's important to them. So of course they can't join our club, but if they have the Derek King Passport Club, they could join that club, because I'm assuming it'll meet at a different time and it'll be virtually. Because who really wants to meet at 7:30 in the morning? We do it so we can get it in and get to work, but So no, I think it's a very good system. And usually when districts are starting, and they're doing a lot in Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland with this right now. So if you can start a passport club, take the people who left in the last 5 years, call them up and say, hey, why did you leave Rotary? We're starting the Derek King Passport Club. You don't have to meet in the morning anymore. You can meet at night. You don't have to pay that fixed cost meals. Remember those things we talked about where people leave. You can make an e-club that's not expensive, that doesn't have too many obligations, and is flexible when they meet. And who wouldn't join that club? I would. Yeah.
Thank you, Thomas. We're all probably an hour and a half away from the closest club, so you're not going to travel 3 hours a week just for a meeting. So great idea. Great thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Gary.
Thanks, Derek and Tom. Kay Phipps, you had a question about cause-based clubs and moving away from meeting the areas of focus.
Yeah, I did. Tom, I really like the idea of a cause-based club, but the group of people I'm with are looking at the 7 areas of focus, and and their feeling is they have to do something in all of those areas of focus. I find that stretches our resources really thin, but they do have a couple of things about which the whole group is really passionate. Do we need to then still consider meeting all those areas of focus? I mean, there's 7, and that's a lot when you're a small group of people.
Thank you very much, Kay, for that question. And I'm going to answer it. But first, I have to recognize I'm honored that Jesse Harmon, our Rotary International Director from Zone 8, is on here. So thank you, Jesse, for coming. You know, Jesse has taught me a lot. When I started first giving presentations, she said, Tom, you have to find out the why. And that's why we had those questions and why. And now I'm talking all over the world. I never would have thought of that, but for Jesse. So thank you, Jesse. So Kay, we can't do everything for everybody. And we do have the 7 areas of focus. And all these new Rotary clubs, the cause-based clubs, they're still Rotary clubs. They still do the avenues of service. But what we have to do is we have to find out what our members want, and we have to give our members what they want. So if they want to work on water, sanitation, hygiene, we should do that. If they want to empower girls by working on feminine hygiene package, we let them do that. The thing is, we need to be flexible enough to allow them to do it in the way they want to do it. So we can have a cause-based club that focuses on one particular area because it allows them to focus in that area so they don't feel like they're working on projects that they don't want to work on. They could focus and use Rotary's district grants and global grants to do that. You know, if I went out and tried to start my own nonprofit, it would be really difficult. You have to form an entity. You have to file the legal paperwork. You have to attract members. You have to fundraise. You have to find the projects. Well, Rotary does a lot of that for us, but it allows us as a club, whether it be a new club or existing club, to pick the projects, fund them ourselves, and actually work on them. And I don't know any other organization that does that. They're usually either using your talents to work or using your fundraising, but we get to do it all in Rotary and design the projects we want. So that's why Rotary's special. Did that answer your question, Kay? Thank you.
Thanks, Kay, and thanks, Tom. Sarah Hill has a question about millennials.
Hi, pretty obvious who I am because I'm the young one. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, so a question, and it is about millennials and what kind of club style you've seen suits them best. I'm in a traditional club now. I absolutely love my club now, but as, you know, a 34-year-old, I know that getting other young millennials into Rotary, they love the idea and they love service, but the model maybe isn't the best. And I'm just wondering if you had any insight into what the best model you've seen work for younger styles that's not Rotaract. We're a little bit into the young professionals at this age, but yeah, just thoughts.
Well, Sarah, thank you very much for asking that question, because it's a question that we get a lot because we really want to have the millennials to be part of Rotary. And, you know, so often, you know, we're taught you got to have your elevator pitch and you give your elevator pitch. I don't necessarily believe that. What I think we need is of course, we need our Rotary stories and we have to get people pulling the heartstrings, but I think we need to listen to our millennials. We need to ask them what they want because they know better than us. You know, it's when I was talking about going out and trying to pitch millennials by saying we pick up trash along the highway and that doesn't work. But I don't presume to know I know everything about millennials. So what I think we need to do is we need to ask them what they want. We need to deliver, if we can, deliver what they want, and then they'll bring themselves in. So really, whatever works for you, Sarah, and works for your friends, tell us in your local club, in your traditional club, what you want, and then let's see if we could work on it together and together come to that. But you know, every business is asking this question. Every service organization is asking this question. I would say we don't know the answers and we need to listen to the millennials and then see if we could deliver it and try to deliver it. So that's what we should do. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Tom. Now, Elaine Mead has a question about international and local projects. Over to you, Elaine.
Thanks, Kia ora, Tom from New Zealand. I noticed when you were talking about the E-Club of Global Travellers, you mentioned that they have an international project and a local project. And I've often wondered, how do those geographically spread membership groupings choose a local project? What do you know what their process was for that?
Elaine, I'm really glad you asked that question because it goes to a heart of an issue. You know, when you only have 30 minutes to present, it's hard to cover everything, but I just love the question and answers because you get to the heart of it quickly. My favorite sessions are when I don't present, I just answer questions. But Elaine, you know, the third action step of our action steps as part of our strategic plan is engagement. And that engagement is so important. And we engage people through the local projects and through the international projects. It's important to let our clubs, whether it be the new clubs or traditional clubs, choose their own projects. And so often I'm asked, well, Tom, how does an e-club do projects? Because they're spread out all over the world. What they do is they do local projects. Our clubs, you know, it's just been over a year that we started the first End Human Trafficking Club, and now there's a dozen of them all over the world. What they do is they do local projects. They raise different kinds of emergency needs for domestic violence shelters and things like that. So it's really important to engage. When it comes to international service projects, it's the same thing, but we have to let the clubs decide what they want to do because people are attracted to different kind of service projects. Not every club wants to do the same type of service projects. And we have certain districts that focus in certain areas of the world, whether it be Honduras or Guatemala and certain projects. So we have to ask them what they want to do. And if someone doesn't have a project that they like, we need to be flexible enough to either consider doing another project. Well, we don't want to try to focus on all 7 again, as the caller was wise to bring up. We want to focus on an area that has great impact and work together to get that done. You know, when someone goes on a service project, you know, I was in Rotary a few years before someone said, hey, Tom, go to Honduras. We're going to build a well. When I went there, it changed my life. I went from a Rotary member to a Rotarian with a capital R because I saw that what Rotary was doing. We first visited 3 villages where the kids were happy, smiling. 7, 8-year-old girls were dancing and putting on shows for us. Then we went to the villages that didn't have fresh water, and the infant mortality rate was 85%. I mean, 85% of their children were dying. And, you know, I appreciate that glass of water I had right before I got on today because of that. And it made me realize the great work Rotary's doing. So that's the engagement we need. And that's what we need to do to have people stay after the 2.5 years and not leave. So thank you very much, Elaine, for asking that question. Did I answer it? Okay.
To a certain extent. Yeah. My impression out of your answer was that, in fact, you could have a myriad, or you could have several different local projects in a club that has a globally or geographically diverse membership spread. But it was the fact that it was up to them to choose.
Thanks, Elaine. Thanks, Tom. Matt McLeod from District 9910, New Zealand, has a question about new clubs versus reviving existing clubs. Over to you, Matt.
I didn't want to derail the excellent topic of about new clubs, but I was thought since we had such a good resource of you on the line here, you might give us a bit of an idea of the proportion of the growth in your district that's come from new clubs versus reviving existing clubs. And did you have like a top 5 quick tips for reviving and reinvigorating existing clubs, please?
Yes, those are both very good questions, and I appreciate it. You know, it's hard to know the exact membership growth, even though we have the numbers, because what we have is we have a number of individuals who may have left Rotary, but actually stayed because we have a new club. You know, often when I'm talking to president-elects as part of PETS trainings, I get the question, Tom, if I start a new club, I'm going to be poaching members from my current club. And I was asked this question, Matt, so many times that I went to Brian King, who's the director of membership development at RI, and I said, Brian, can you please study all the clubs that have started in the last 5 years and tell me how many are new to Rotary and how many are, you know, existing members? It turns out that 88% are new to Rotary, never joined Rotary before. And it can be said, Matt, some of those 12% may have left. For those of you who joined in the middle of the program, when we started our End Human Trafficking Club, they came to me and said, we're leaving Rotary. And I asked them why, and it's because we weren't giving them enough grants and weren't giving them enough time and speakers about their one cause that they cared about. So we started another club and we kept them. the 5 most reasonable things you can do to keep people, to reinvigorate your club, Matt, would be think about conducting a survey, find out if changing the time, the place, the meeting format, your socials, your work projects, see if you can tweak any of those and make them stay. When we do surveys, we find out there's only 5% dissatisfied, but they're dissatisfied for simple reasons that we can change. If it's you have a club, we had a club in our district. They wanted to start a young professionals club. They did start a young professionals club. That club grew. The sponsoring club grew. They both did great. In an adjoining city, we had a club that people were leaving because they didn't like the morning. So they moved the whole club, to a noon club. They lost more members. A year later, they moved back to a morning club. They lost more members. So the moral of the story is you can take a satellite club and take just 8 people, have them be a club that's still a part of your club, still counts towards your membership, but they meet at a different time and place. Just that little bit of tweaking can help solve that. So it's that simple. You just have to execute. Thank you for the question, Matt.
Okay. Tom, a question about one of your classmates, who you know well, Andy Rajapaksa from District 9, past governor of District 9640. District 9640 had a remarkably successful year of growth last year, which was the culmination of a very carefully crafted and shared strategic plan, which is rolling on. This thing about Andy puts a lot of that down to the importance of good leadership. What part does good leadership play in the development of these new clubs?
Thank you, Kiro, for that question. And Andy is indeed a classmate, a dear friend, and he, along with Jesse, have done a great job over the last few years of being courageous and saying, no, we're not merging with another district. We're going to do this, and we're going to grow clubs. We're going to do memberships. Leadership is so important. It's that energy that gives you that wind behind your sails that makes everyone know they can do it and gets everyone focused. Remember in the beginning, Kira, when we were talking about it takes 2 things. You need motivation and direction. A good president of a new club or existing club could put membership at the top. When I was president of my club, I brought in 31 individuals. I had that as a goal before I started, but I didn't tell anyone because I didn't want them to think I was strange or unrealistic. But you know what? When we had a monthly board meeting, and the first thing I talked about was membership. Most times we talk about, okay, these are the financial numbers. This is what we have for our next service project. We need to do this, this, and this. Put membership on top. Talk about it. Celebrate those individuals that bring people in. When the people come in, have a poster there that says, welcome potential new member. When I did that in my club, people would come up and say, hey, can I have that poster? I want to send it to my mother. Just those little things that show that we care about people. A good leader, Kiro, stands at the door and welcomes people. We looked at that survey of why people join, because we're welcoming. Why do they stay? The same reasons. So leadership is important, and we can teach our leaders on a district level to talk about membership. It's like fundraising or anything else. We need to set the priorities, and we need to motivate them. We need to inspire them, and we need to do it by our action. At 7:30, which is 2.5 hours from now, I'm bringing a new member to my club. I brought a new potential member. I brought a different new potential member last week. When you model that behavior, people follow it and they do it. So we just have to focus. It's like that Nike commercial. You just got to do it.
But that's the thing. I want to go back to Andy Rajapaksa, because we had a conversation elsewhere on Facebook, I think it was today. We were talking about aspects of personal, that Rotary is a great developmental organisation. In fact, Director Jesse was the one who said that in the latest Rotary Down Under. And we got to this issue of expressing pride in Rotary. We have this thing about humility, about sort of almost being sort of anti-tall poppy, as we sort of put in Australia. But Andy has demonstrated, one of the many things he's demonstrated is that getting out there and expressing pride in your team is a great motivator. That it's, you do it in your own words, but it's a great motivator. What would you say to that?
I think Andy's 100% right. We in Rotary, we have our job of bringing in new members, but we have a secondary job, which is telling people about new members. And I tell you, Kiro, we do so many good things, but we don't talk about it. Every time, Houston in the USA, their district does a wonderful thing that I'm trying to implement in our district. When they get a new member, they put it on Facebook. We have a new member. You have to check with the member and make sure it's okay. But when people start seeing that we are focusing on bringing in new members, they think about it and they do that. Nikki Scott, who's a director, along with Director Jesse, she thinks of Rotary as a gift. And it's a gift that we want to share with our friends. When you're president of your club, there's nothing better than adding friends and seeing more smiling faces that who are working together to do good in the world. And we just need to tell people about that. And we can do it. We just need to focus on it, and we need to make it an effort. Just like Shakar says, attract people. Everyone bring one. And then the motivation is you bring in 25 members, you're on the membership society. And we don't do it just for that reason, but I'm so glad that RI is taking the time to do that. And Jessie might have some great ideas. I'm sure she does, because she was on the International Global Membership team for years. So she's a great resource, and you are very fortunate to have her in your country.
Yeah, we do think she's pretty good. We do think she's pretty good. Now, Tom, I've gone over the hour because you did sort of have a couple of internet breaks there. So I thought,
yes,
we better get value for the crew, especially after my mucking up the half hour. But one last question, and this is one that I do like to ask all my Rotary club building heroes, and you're one of those. Tom Gump, past District Governor Tom Gump, why are you in Rotary?
I joined for one reason and I stayed for another reason. I'm in Rotary because of the lifelong friendships that you make. Of course, I like doing good in the world. I love the service, but I love doing it with like-minded people. And, you couldn't find a better group of people than Rotarians. When I leave my meeting at 7:30, a couple hours from now it starts, and then 3.5 hours, I'll be done. I'll feel like, if I am like I usually am, I'll feel smarter and I'll feel like a better person, because I've been able to interact with people who I respect, who are leaders in my community, and who want to make the world a better place. So I'm honored to have been here with you today, and I'm honored to have made more friends in Australia, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Right, yeah. Well done, Tom. That's great work, mate. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Tom.
And thanks, everyone, for being with us this afternoon and this evening.